generally in a bookstore, you would see that there's a majority of books on management. Why? Because everybody is doing MBA. There's a majority of books that. So that's a public demand. Now we remove public demand. Now we remove all management books because that's public demand. Remove that. BTech books, it won't be there, although it's a public demand. What will be there is there will be a lot of economics books and the other sort of books, like let's say, for example, gravity. Let's say, for example, books on geography, books on history. The economics books will always outnumber the other books. Always. The reason is, in geography, we know the Himalayas is there.
Mm-hmm.
We know the divisions of the Pacific Ocean. We know the divisions of the Atlantic Ocean. We know Newton's laws of gravity, Newton's equation of gravity, Newton's laws of motions. It's a fundamental truth. It's an objective truth. It's been proven.
Mm-hmm.
So having 3 books will not tell you 3 different perspectives.
Correct.
Whereas having 3 different economics books at a higher level will tell you 3 different perspectives there. The reason of 3 perspectives being establishes one fundamental thing. The amount we know about something is inversely proportional to the number of books in a bookstore.
Whew. Okay, I'll quote that. That's a brilliant one.
So if that's the case, if there are so many economics books, it's like leave us. There are experts who do not know what the hell economics is. 100%.
Correct.
So the establishment of the base of this conversation in the podcast is that we don't know what the hell economics is.
Absolutely.
We move from there. And why don't we know economics? Again, very simple thing. It deals with people. How much do we know ourselves? You can talk about myself, your favorite color, your favorite movie. Yes, what the hell? But as you keep on going through the layers, you won't know much. You won't know much about society. You won't know much about consciousness. And then that brings in the question, like, who are we? We don't have an answer to that.
Correct.
We don't have a definite answer.
Yeah.
And economics deals with these people, these things, like not just who are we. Economics deals with these individuals, these people. And when it deals with these people, when we don't know what people are, we definitely can't know what economics is. What we try to do is we try to analyze some other things which are portions which affect economics, and based on the objective truths hidden or enclosed by those things, we try to understand what economics is. That's the very basic fundamental of economics. And you would see on Facebook people giving everybody lectures on, you don't know economics, your economics teacher must be very sad today. So yes, if I could, I would definitely want to say this exact thing to that person. MBA graduate.
That's the exact perspective that I wanted to hear right now, because in the past 3 minutes, what you have done is basically justified and answered each and every comment on your Facebook post. Because that's the answer. Even I don't know 100%. But that doesn't mean I will fall for what hysteria suggests. And that's what I want to counter. That's what I want to counter. So for the listeners right now, if you're not aware, India is undergoing, I don't know what is this? What is India undergoing? A mass thing where people want everyone to uninstall Chinese apps and stop buying from China, stop buying Chinese products, to apparently cut down and bring down China or Chinese economy. Now, the sentiment is up to you to judge, right? I'm nobody to say whether you should like China or you should not like China. But however, the goal, if you're trying to reach a goal together as a nation itself, then we need to know how realistic the goal is. We can't just be blind dreamers, can we? Right? So this is exactly what we want to talk about. And Soumya made a few posts on Facebook, which I really found interesting. And I'll be sharing one of them with you now. And then possibly we can get into further discussion about it. Let's see. All right. So I think it all started with this. 88 shares. Like this is an anomaly right now. A lot of people found this interesting. So I'll read it out for you. So China's total export is 2260 billion US dollars. Its import is 1840, which leaves it with a trade balance of 420 billion dollars. Now China's export to India is 68 billion dollars and its import is 16. The trade balance that is left with is 52 billion dollars. Now China's GDP, listen to this carefully. Export to India 68 billion. China's GDP 14,140 US dollars. Billion US dollars. So basically, if India completely stops buying from China, we will be reducing what? 0.36% of the GDP. This was insane to read, man. How were you feeling when all this was going on in India? What were you thinking?
See, this is not even economics. This is just a very. It's simply a division. It's a division x by y, and it gives some answer. This is not speaking anything. What people made out of this is like I felt sad on multiple levels here, not just because of the people who were against me, because this was definitely a controversial statement, but the people who were for. The people who were for were laughing at the mockery. They were not laughing, or they didn't even reflect at the situation that India is in. And frankly, India is not in a good situation right now. Let alone this import from China or whatever. So the people have not really reflected on where those numbers are. Like, see, these numbers are not false. These are taken from World Bank. To make it clear to your audience, these numbers are taken from the World Bank. These numbers are true. As much as the country reports it. Obviously, a country would not underreport their own GDP. That's one thing which we can. The least that they will do is over-report it. So whatever it is, even if this is over-reporting it, you have to understand that there are certain nuances that is hidden in there. We won't talk so much about in complicated terms. We'll try to simplify this.
That'll be great.
In short, people did not even understand the simple division. That's what I'm sad about. That's the thing.
I don't think they have even done the simple division, man. Let alone reach the conclusion. I think they don't make the effort. They just feed off what the media prints out to them. Emotional.
That's the thing. So the role of the media becomes very important here. So where is media here? So if we are talking about China and this entire situation right now, because it's important to talk about it. So I saw that your Zoom meeting. It's not going to be a Zoom. I hope that people would see us talk. It'd be nice. But yeah. So the Zoom meeting had that had a thing called numbers, right? So let's talk about numbers first. Let's talk about these numbers first. First the media, then these numbers. What do these numbers do first? And then move on from there. That where is China and where is India? So we're going to talk about sentiments the last of it all, because that is where the human beings come in, and that's the most complicated part of it all. Numbers are easier. Where media is that you would see that there are two kinds of media in India. One is what we know as serious media, that is you can say print media or big international journals, big international places of repute, albeit controversial, even let's say Republic TV. Let's say why I'm saying it's important is that it is considered more important than social media by some people. So we can classify media into social media and other media. Important was a wrong term, just to bring the perspective. I'm just saying it. Okay. So it's either social media or other media. So something which normally floats around always in social media is not reflected in the other media normally, or it's reflected in the other media in a very small amount. When you see social media and the other media going hand in hand, then you have to ask the question, because not all questions asked on social media are baseless, biased questions. There are multiple important questions asked on social media. Why are they not asked by the other media? Considering this fact that the other media have their certain sources of funding. I'm not saying they're paid media, but other media have their sources of funding. They are inside a market. They are there to make profits. They are there to employ more people. If that's an employment place, if that is a place which gives jobs to people, then at the end of the day, it is a for-profit organization. Other media, you can't say it's biased. You can't say anything, because the fact is, it is out there for profit. It is out there to grab money. Where is this money coming from? This money is coming from the people. Everybody. Who is the people? The people is the government, the people is the society. So there is a wave which sort of, it's a ripple effect through society which happens. And when this ripple effect reaches from social media to other media, that is the point of time you start questioning what is this thing, because it's reaching not just the niche audience of India at that time. Because at that time, see, I'm saying niche or unniche because, again, there will be discrimination. When we're talking about it, forget discrimination. It's clear. People are poor, people are rich. It's a fundamental truth. It's an objective truth. No matter whatever the hell you believe, the people are poor, people are rich, people are Brahmins, people are whatever else, Dalits. It's an objective truth, and
That
people are
exists.
treated. Yeah. So if that's there, and social media is accessed by 0.5% of India's population, again, that's a guesstimate. I haven't calculated this. Simple guesstimate, 0.5%. And then there's another section of India where it has 50% or even 40% of that other population has access to this other media. Then it's affecting a large gentisia, and then it's affecting ultimately the election of the government. So that is where you have to question what's happening. Is it right? Is it not right? Forget right or wrong. You have to question it. You have to see what's there. This elephant thing, you say, this elephant thing. It's simple. I established a post there, and I said that there are multiple. I know we'll jump between topics.
Sure, sure. Go ahead.
So, like, jumping between topics, I'll just quickly, like, see, this topic will take exactly 2 minutes. Number one, there are animals killed on multiple places, even for your meat, even everywhere. Those videos don't come out. People kill animals for fun. You've seen that on social media as well. So this is where I'm saying social media is unimportant, because it floats around stuff like this. People kill animals for fun on social media. Why? Because it reaches certain other people who consume that media. And when it reaches certain other people who are consuming that media, it's a criminal act at the end of the day. But why are 100 criminal acts not looked at by this other media, but this one specific criminal act is looked at, and a member of the present ruling government has made a comment against the state based on this particular premise? That's Maneka Gandhi I'm talking about. Why? So there is an ulterior motive here. What is that ulterior motive? The ulterior motive is obviously what the government stands for: segregation of religion. This adds to their strength of segregation of religion. Why? Simple. Because 10 days ago, when this China thing is going on, people are divided. Not so many people are supporting the government. Now, suddenly, there is a rage amongst people, even people who are against the ruling government. These people are also against the killing of the elephant, somehow. And the media saw this opportunity, or rather, the government saw this opportunity. And they said that this is a good move to, even if one person moves from one side to the other side just because of this act of the government, of this act of showing kindness or standing up for one animal, they would get one more vote. I'm not giving a communal color. I am not giving a communal color. I'm just simply talking about the communal color that is already there. as simple as that. So that's the thing. Either talk about everything or talk about nothing, as that goes to other media. So pretty much simple.
However, I think one argument to this would be that why shouldn't media choose what they want? Like, if you say talk about everything, then everything comprises of a lot of things. Correct. So
Mhm.
it's not really hard to report, but again, as you said, it doesn't go to their corporate funding, wherever it is coming from.
Right,
What
right.
does it do? It triggers emotions again. Going back to that, but again, this is an interesting fact. I never thought of it as this, right? So people on social media, including I, until this moment, used to think social media has a wide reach. It's an insanely high reach. Whatever is the voice of the social media is probably the voice of the entire country. But turns out this stat is pretty interesting. More people, way more people don't have social media than do.
Obviously. See, it is. We'll talk about multiple subjects here. That's how you can make it. It has got to do with biology, simple biology. Our five senses, limit us in a huge manner. And what's immediate to you, you consider that the world, because that is what those five senses are communicating to you. It is not your fault. That is the information that your brain is processing. Now, how do we go beyond this? Like, how do we know that it is much more? How do we overwhelm our own senses? See, you are never, like, you are overwhelmed by your sight when you go to a fantastic place, see a huge depth or whatever. Why are you overwhelmed? Because you have seen nothing like that before in your life.
Yes.
So sitting at home, how can you overwhelm yourself? You can overwhelm yourself by imagining. When you read, you imagine. When you listen, you imagine. So all those other senses create a sort of sixth. It's not a sense, but it's an ability we have, imagination. And how can we tap into that imagination? Science, numbers is how we can tap into that imagination. So this is the thing. So it's interesting how you say this, because I had a very specific point to make. I was actually thinking about this just before this podcast. I came 10 minutes late because I was taking a shower. So yeah, I'm like it's like don't think that I'm talking to an old friend or whatever or anything, but like anything that I do, I want to give a lot of importance to it. So uh, I was thinking about this. So let's say I said that China's total import export is 2,260 plus 1,840. Export and import. China imports 1,840, exports 2,260. That makes China's total trade, international trade. So this is how we look through this particular post. That makes China's total international trade 4,000 billion USD. In other words, 4 trillion USD. Right. You would say that that's a big amount of trade. How big is it? That's where people are fail on social media. I'll talk about social media later. I know there are multiple things going on in my head, but people fail on social media because people just see. People saw 4,000 billion USD. People saw 3 trillion USD. People saw this. People saw that. Do they question it? Do they further think about it? No. 99% don't. No. 99% people will immediately make a comment. Now the bigger aspect of this entire thing is you said that the sentiment is to take China down. I'll address something on this aspect. India's total import export is somewhere in the range of 600 to 700 billion US dollars. 600 to 700 billion USD. Right. China's total import export is 40 to 100 USD. Let's take India's maximum trade, 700 billion. China's is 40 to 100 billion. So the total trade of China is almost 6 times more than the trade of India.
Mhm.
In other words, it would mean, when I say 6 times, it's easy, you would say nothing. In other words, it would mean that for India, it would take at this rate, constant rate, 6 years to achieve the same amount of trade China does in 1 year. Considering that China's trade does not improve, considering that China's trade does not improve in the 6 years, the other part of this, China's trade is 4 trillion USD. India's GDP is not 4 trillion USD. What does that mean? That means that the total amount of all economic activity, a Dalit going down a sewer and getting paid 20 rupees for it, to Anil Ambani selling 4 lakh SIM cards, the total economic activity of India entirely in 1 year combined from 1.39 billion people is not is lesser than the amount China's government trades with other countries. So it is not physically possible, it's not mathematically possible for us to beat China. So we should definitely put that thought behind us. It's mathematically not possible for us to uh, beat China. Then, what other, where should sentiments go? Well, we'll definitely talk about it. So, yeah, that's just
Exactly.
food.
All right.
Yeah.
So to this point, are you aware of why this entire thing started? Because again, listeners, he is in Kyoto right now, and you are researching on what topic exactly?
My research is on the basis of energy sciences, and I am in the social science division of energy sciences. So economics is a bread and butter sort of right now.
All right. Interesting. So with that given background, since you're in Kyoto, do you know why this entire sentiment started? Why it went ahead with what happened? Are you aware of it?
See, things randomly pop up on social media.
Yeah, so a few videos that happened there. That was one thing, which is why it's viral on social media. One is of I forgot his name, Mr. Wangchuk or something. Yeah, from
Sonam.
Ladakh. Sonam Wangchuk. Yes, Sonam Wangchuk. I was getting his Three Idiots ka name. Mr. Wangadu. That one. But anyway, so Mr. Sonam Wangchuk made a video against China. Ki they're pushing against Ladakh border. That happens and all. So that is one thing that added to the sentiment. Along with that, there are these creators called Abhi and Niyu. Do you know them?
Okay.
They make.
No.
Do you know Nas Daily?
Yes, definitely.
They make similar kinds of videos, but more India centric, nationalism centric. Why India is a great country, something like that. And the latest videos was supporting Mr. Sonam Wangchuk. So these two videos started the entire thing, as far as I am aware. Right, about boycotting China, and again, it restarted, I would say. But now they also have a response video in which they say 3 or 4 different things. As new industries are coming up, you got to be happy. Is pure corona ke duration mein, some women in some northeastern state, apparently flowers ragad ke unhone, they had made sanitizers, which now made, they are growing a lot, right? $60 billion industry, $30 billion industry, and they're growing a lot. So if this sentiment keeps up, we'll get there one day. So what do we say to those guys who believe in it? Or is it right in a way? Is it possible at all? If people suddenly become better entrepreneurs, what is possible?
There are multiple aspects to talk about here, definitely. Sentiments should never be driven to put somebody down. Then that's not a sentiment to begin with. So if the problem or rather I would say the problem with Sonam Wangchuk's statement, I have not read his entire statement, but I know the gist of what he said. He said that India needs to be more resilient and stop using Chinese products. It does not mean that we have to beat China. Yeah. So the fact is, he has addressed a very simple issue. He has addressed our over dependence on China. Are we overly dependent on China? Yes, we are. Definitely, we are. Do we need to change that? We definitely need to change that. Why is that important to us? Because China has, in simple unparliamentary language, very fucked up laws with respect to trade. Because the fact is, China is a capitalist pig dressed in the colors of a communist nation. It's as simple as that. So, if that's the case, and there are multiple trade regulations which follow China, we're not going to go into laws because, again, it's
Yeah.
not an MUN, it's a dispute.
Correct.
And other people here. If that's the case, then it can hurt industries which are directly dependent on Chinese import. So that's why we should be self-resilient. Does not equal to we should put China down. Simple. That's a first thing. Second thing. Uh, why are we dependent on China? People need to ask this question. People need to find out what exactly are we dependent on China. The first and obvious answer which comes to mind is mobile phones. Because why? It's a visual illusion. It's a visual illusion because you see the words "made in China" written there. It's a visual illusion because that is just that is just 15% of the imports from China. 15% of the total imports from China is electronic goods. The rest 85% is hidden. Is hidden from you, is hidden from me. This is where we have to understand some basics of economics. The basics of economics is that, let's say, for example, we are on video call right now. I can see a fan above your head. I can see that an air conditioner is running. I can see a stabilizer behind you. You know that air conditioner, which is there, it has certain. It's made of what? It is made of polyester or some, not polyester exactly, some sort of plastic.
Correct.
Some sort of plastic
Yes.
material,
Yes.
fiber, something. The it's a split AC. It has two units. So there's rubber there as well. Rubber that is synthesized. Then there is an outdoor unit. There's an indoor unit. In the outdoor unit, you have something called a condenser, which essentially pumps in cool air. So each and everything has multiple means of production. Each and every component, none of those components were produced in one single factory. They were assembled in a single factory. So they were produced in multiple different places. And when they're produced in multiple different places, each and everything has a production cycle. Like, for example, if I say this pen is plastic, right? This pen is essentially plastic. The ink is something else. It is assembled inside a particular factory. But this plastic, this cover, is shaped based on a petroleum product. This is essentially oil.
Yes.
Essentially oil.
Correct.
Any plastic is oil. It's made from oil. It's a petroleum product. So this oil is refined somewhere. This oil is then, from that refinery, this oil is converted into an individual petroleum product like Coke or like petroleum jelly,
Right.
or like LPG. Even as a matter of fact, by the way, LPG is a oil product, not a natural gas product. People confuse that. So LPG is an oil product. It's called liquefied petroleum gas. Petroleum is the most important.
Yes.
So yeah, so it's an oil product.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, so there are at least three factories involved here. One which produces the pigment of the ink, one which refines the oil, one which gives the final shape of this product. Each and every one of those factories has certain machinery to do this. Those machineries are also produced in some other factory, and those factories have some other machineries which are produced in some other factory, which has a compounding effect throughout the society. You and I, as simple people, we are not supposed to know this. We are only supposed to know that this is a bloody pen which costs 3 rupees. That's it. Why does it cost 3 rupees? Have you ever asked that? Why does it not cost 10 rupees?
Yeah.
Why have the cost of pens gone down? It's because there is some part of this entire life cycle of any commodity that has an increase in the production cost. And that ripples through society. That ripples through forget society. That ripples through the entire production chain. This is where China comes into play, or China, or let's say imports come into play. For example, the chief import or the biggest import from China and India is iron, not iron ore, iron, finished iron,
Okay.
and steel. And steel in its raw form, that is, again, when steel comes to India, we further melt it. Steel is there everywhere. It's steel is not just utensils. Steel is there in your building bricks, in the poles.
It's a pretty important thing,
There are
basically.
cables on bridges. So the reason being that Indian refineries or Indian metallurgical industries do not have that much efficient throughput, or rather, what is throughput? You put in some raw materials and a finished product comes out. So there's energy required in the process in between. Again, this is now my field, energy sciences. There's energy required somewhere in the middle. It's converting something to something. So that happens because of energy.
Yes.
And something to something has an efficiency associated with it. Like the amount of material I'm getting out and the amount of material I'm putting in. That's output by input. So simple. And that is the efficiency. Efficiency for India is pretty less compared to China. So you might ask, what is the factor here? Factor depends on the industries which are in the middle zone, which don't sell to you. The industries which sell to other industries.
Okay.
That is where it comes into play. That is where the industry which is buying a certain, let's say the industry which is buying coke or petroleum jelly. Petroleum jelly, if I give to you, you would only use it as Vaseline. You would have no other use for it. But this other industry has its process. So this petroleum jelly, if it is produced by a industry which is having less efficiency, its cost is going up. By natural law of economics, its selling price is going up. And we know that forever, that crisscross graph which we have, that basic economics, selling price, cost, supply, demand. The supply demand.
I've never studied it in the form of a cross, but I do understand supply and demand.
Simple.
Yeah.
So if the selling price increases, demand decreases.
Yeah.
That's simple as simply. So, but the fact is, what do we compare it from? We compare it from, is there anything cheaper available in the market? Yes. The finished product, which is done in China. So the combined cost of to the intermediate industry which is buying, the combined cost of its production in China and its transportation to India and the duty paid is lesser than the simple production in India.
That expensive?
Yeah, it's
like
that expensive. Yeah, it is that expensive. That is why we are importing. Otherwise, why the hell will we import?
Correct. If it's better in India, why would we import? Why would companies ever go and buy import products?
Right, and it also depends on the geography of India. This is where geography comes. So let's say, for example, the iron ore available in Karnataka, Deccan Plateau, is very much mixed with non-ferrous elements as well. And being mixed with non-ferrous elements, the purity of iron is very less. That is why the steel belt, we call it the Jharkhand belt. The Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, West Bengal, parts of West Bengal, that entire area, we call it as the steel belt. Because that is much more pure iron ore.
Yes.
Now, economics is very interesting here. It can be produced there, And to bring that thing all the way by trains to the run of Kutch in Gujarat will take up much more cost than it being imported by a ship, large enough ship, which is carrying it through the South China Sea into India. Because the production process in the initial industry, which is giving out the petroleum jelly, is much cheaper in China. Or there are multiple reasons. They have automated parts of it. It's not just the mineral we are talking about anymore. We are talking about the efficiency of the entire industry. They have automated it. Their labor cost is less. Their land cost is probably less. Everything is owned by the government there. So their land is land reforms does not need to come into play there. So China has found out a way to use authoritative government to their advantage. The government is responsible for Chinese loss of human rights, but at the same point of time, a brilliant industry.
Yeah, credit. You're giving them credit where it's due.
Mm-hmm.
You're giving them credit where it's due.
Yeah, obviously. So I am not a communist. I am inclined towards the left. I won't disagree for your viewers, but I am not a communist. I'll give credit to capitalism where it's due. I'll give credit to communism where it's due. So here, that's the entire gist of it. Now here's the catch. Here's the catch. Here's a fun part. Let's say somebody. Again, we're not going to talk about so much technical again. Let's say somebody is like we entirely stop. We don't care about industries. We don't care about anything. We want Bharat. Jai Hind, Bharat Mata ki Jai Shri Ram. Whatever. Sorry for mocking anybody who is listening.
All right.
But
I want this kind of protest, man. All right.
For a second, somebody is very immovable, like the Dark Knight, when an unstoppable force meets an immovable. Somebody is very immovable on his sentiments, on his beliefs, and he says that nahi, it has to happen in India. Right. Here there are two things, which is very funny. The first part is India. You know how markets work, right? Like the very basic principle of market is that there are producers and there are consumers, and the government maintains a balance between the producers and the consumers.
Yes.
Or tries to maintain a risk which might arise between producers and consumers. Pretty simple. In this extremely simple fact, when a consumer always wants to buy products for lesser price, a producer wants to sell it for a more price, for a higher price. That is the basics of economics. So we don't normally get the highest demand point of a consumer. This is the crisscross graph that I was talking about.
Okay.
We get a middle point where the producer is not selling at the highest price. Neither are the consumers getting the maximum amount of that product. We're coming to a middle point where both are compromising. This compromise is a fundamental balance of a market. This particular compromise, it's like a seesaw. It balances out everything. Because this is not based on sentiments, because this is based on mathematics. It's as simple as that. It balances out everything. Mathematics is the ultimate truth, by the way. So yeah, statistics isn't. Mathematics is. So because statistics are hidden from you. It's not that statistics lie. Statistics is hidden from you. If it's manipulated, then the manipulation is not. So So whatever it is, so whatever I was talking about. So normally the producer. So now the consumers is fine. The consumer sentiment is they require less price for a particular. They don't care about the quantity, by the way. They require the less price. That's it. For a producer, they care about the price and they care about the both. The producer. So a producer, if he's selling for less, he would want to sell more
Correct.
to maximize profit. Here, so if he's wanting to sell more, he has to find a efficient process or the input cost less enough for him to produce more. He has to reduce his own, like when he himself is a consumer. See, everybody is a consumer, everybody is a producer at the end of the day. Apart from the end consumer, everyone else is a producer and a consumer.
Yeah.
Apart from the absolute end consumer. So of any product. So if that's the case, that intermediate producer will want to decrease his own purchases and the cost of his own purchases at the same rate at which he's selling and the same quantity at which he's selling his product.
Right.
Want to decrease his initial investment into everything. This happens in a normal free market. This is what we call a free market, where the producer has every right to control what he inputs.
Imports.
Outputs have
Inputs.
what he inputs.
Yeah.
Inputs.
Yeah.
His output have to meet standards. His output have to meet the demands, the exact demands. But the consumer does not give jack shit about what the inputs of that producer is. This is a free market. In this free market, now somebody tells it to that intermediate producer that, sir, you can't use this particular input. You have to use this input. You see, telling it to the intermediate producer. Consumer won't say it because the consumer does not even know what it is. Who will say it? Who? I'm asking you. Who will say it?
Your voice broke again.
So
what?
it's like, who will say it to the intermediate producer that you have to use this and not this as your input?
Who will or who can?
Who can?
The government.
Government, specifically. So the government is essentially controlling the way in which the intermediate producers, everybody is an intermediate producer, is using his inputs or is creating profits.
Intermediate
Which means
producer.
that-
What exactly do you mean by that? So again, you just said that we all are consumers. Everyone is a consumer. Everyone is a producer. Also, everyone is
So I'm saying
intermediate.
is a producer as well as in the intermediate process.
All right. I was trying to visualize intermediate producer. That's where I was.
Right. It's like an intermediate actor, let's say, for example, somebody who consumes as well as produces. I'm not talking about the actor and the consumer. So if that's the case, the government can say it to that person. And when the government says it to that person, that means that the government is controlling the market. Normally, what we associate it with a controlled market, what sort of economic theory do we associate with a controlled market?
Free market economy, right? Again.
No.
Wait. I think when I'm speaking, right, when I'm breathing, your voice is getting cut.
3, 2, 1. I'm saying it. When the government controls the market, which is the opposite of a free market, what is that economic scenario which we call it?
I don't know the name of it.
Communist government.
All right. This is pretty much how it went in China.
This is pretty much how it's going in India right now. The sentiments. The people on the right wing are supporting something absolutely communist without even realizing that they are supporting something absolutely communist. if they say that the government should tell all the actors who to take their products from.
That's not free market anymore.
It's not a free market anymore. So this is just a jab at certain extreme.
I'll tell you where I am right now. So
Mhm.
I understand pretty well that what you just spoke is like if economics is at 100% understood, no, 95% understood. This is, I think, just the 3 or 4% of it, or not even that.
Ob- obviously, I don't understand anything.
Yeah. So
I
if you understand, let's say 90% or 80% of it, this is still 3%. That's what I'm trying to say. So I'm trying to understand your
let,
perspective.
let's not try to quantify what is unquantifiable.
All right, fair enough. Some man habits don't die, man.
I've
But uh-huh. You learned?
learned it the hard.
Yeah, I understand. I understand. But again, I'll tell you where I am right now. So the information that you gave, as you were saying it, a lot of it was pretty basic, but it's so strange that I've never thought of it myself. It is so simple that as I was hearing it, I was entire time I was thinking, why didn't I think of this? It is that simple to think about, but we don't. It's not that difficult a concept to understand. I think something similar was happening in America in during the New York protests, which happened where near the Wall Street, 2018. Do you know about
Mhm.
this?
At all.
No.
I'm not aware of that, but you
All
can
right.
make me aware.
Yeah,
Then we
that's what.
can
That's what.
talk about.
Sure, sure. So, in this thing, they were protesting against the
Of
what?
something was happening in 2018. Wall Street. It happens every day. Those are the biggest criminals on the planet. But yeah, you can continue.
Oh, right. Then one of the protests in 2018, because this is a video I saw of a billionaire. All right. So the protest was that the 1% are the criminals, they are the problem, so and so. I mean, they need to step down, they need to they give up their money, etc., etc. That was a protest. And there was this guy holding a placard. I am the 1%. Let's talk. Right. Let me just pull that up for you. Just a second.
1%. Let's talk.
Peter Schiff. You know who that is?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So
Who?
Peter Schiff.
No.
This one. Can you see the video?
Okay. Okay. He looks like a billionaire.
Can you hear it?
I cannot really.
All right. But anyway, I'll try to make his point. His point is simply that capitalism is not the problem; the government is. All right. Now, I want to find the truth in this last segment because I think just this understanding of basics is a lot. And again, I want to get your take on this. On two things actually. Let's ignore this is another tangent about the China issue. All right. Um, I don't want to say let's stick to the sentiments because that's a fool's parade. All right. What's the point of just going through that pain of thinking, okay, fine, we'll beat China one day? Because what's the entire goal of that? That's not the goal of life as such to beat another country.
A very short point
Huh.
here. Sentiments are actually good. There's an entire segment of economics which is relating to people. It's called behavioral economics.
Mm-hmm.
But behavior normally extends to the end consumer. It doesn't extend, rather, they can't behave not ordinarily, the intermediate people who produce as well as consume. Because the fact is, if they start to behave not ordinarily, because we know market exists because of competition, they would be kicked out of competition. It's as simple as that. So the government's role here is very simple. if the sentiment is progression of India, then that's an entirely different aspect that we are talking about. Here, the government has to invest where it matters and not look for momentary profits. So, in that scenario, there has to be a lot of analysis which has to be done in each and every aspect of each and every industry, each and every production aspect of each and every industry. Unfortunately, most of our government agencies, most, I'm saying most, to your listeners who might get offended, most of our government agencies go to office at 9, come back at 5, and have a 2 hour lunch break. That is not how you collect data. Data is basically year upon year projected after one survey which was probably done 10 years ago, which is not ground data. And when it's not ground data, policies are bound to be misleading because the policy is not based on actual figures to begin with. This is where government agencies need to pull up their socks and go to the field. It starts with them. It starts with understanding, wow, where is what coming from? What is what? That's a thing. Where is something coming from? If that can't be answered by the government, then ultimately throwing away your TikTok and uninstalling this app and throwing away your iPhone won't really matter. Because at the end of the day, you have to really understand that China, whatever the international trade is, their population is more than India, and their population is more educated than India, which means that their consumer base is much, much more than India's can ever be.
Hearing this, I'm surprised, but I felt a pain in my heart, like, that can't happen. We can't beat them. I had this in me as well. And it's strange to recognize that because it's deep within you. As a human being, I can't help it but feel for it. Yeah, I do have a choice whether to act on my primal instincts or not. Although
Obviously.
Although I was feeling a certain sentiment, I don't think it means me uninstalling TikTok for economic reasons. Of course, if the privacy issue, that's a completely different thing. That's a different issue altogether. It's not related to economy. That's throwing TikTok away won't destroy China. Let's get that out of the picture first. That won't
That's
matter.
There's also one sentiment here. You using Patanjali toothpaste or Colgate really won't make much of a difference to the ultimate end result. Patanjali, people are saying use Indian product, right? You using Patanjali toothpaste and using Colgate won't make much of a difference. I'll tell you why it won't make much of a difference. Again, let's trace back a few steps and let's talk. We were talking about this pen, right? We were talking about this pen, that this plastic, this. So there are 3 industries which come together to give this pen, and there's every product comes together ultimately in the final stage assembly. Patanjali, do you think Baba Ramdev ji, after advertising for 10 years about yoga, buying the support of people? By the way, this is advertisement, it's also a part of economics. Baba Ramdev's ultimate target was obviously Patanjali. It was never yoga, it was never asana, whatever the hell it was. It was a gimmick which was sold, which people bought, and now people are buying Patanjali. Now let's talk about Patanjali here. Patanjali, let's talk about a simple thing. Toothpaste, Patanjali noodles. In the toothpaste of Patanjali, the toothpaste is not given to you as cow dung in your hand, right? It's in a tube. The tube has a cap to it. The toothpaste has a certain menthol flavor to it, or whatever the hell flavor to it. So there are multiple different raw materials which have gone into it. Most likely, if we individually break that up, the ultimate final product or the ultimate final price that you're paying for the toothpaste is going to India. Fine. What about the chain of other industries which have used all the other products which are a result of imports? So you are making a difference of maximum 10% in one product, mind you. One product, you are making a difference of 10%. You can't possibly extend this to every product in your life. Yes, little by little, everything is good. But this 10% you have to understand is 10% of 40 rupees, 4 rupees. You're making a difference there for the Indian
Economy?
4 rupees of again a chain of other things which are there.
Yeah.
So the ultimate difference is not much. The ultimate difference amounts to a very negligible amount. Yes, of course, you can drive this forward, drive this sentiment forward, use it as much as possible. But the real change, if we this will replicate into change into what, like 20 years down the line. By that point of time, see, we are neglecting one very important fact here. Whenever we talk about this, we are also neglecting the fact that China does not progress while India is progressing. China is equally progressing as well, or even at a faster pace than India. If that's the case, then there will be more products in the supply chains of a product which will come into India, where the ultimate label is sold as Indian and nothing about it is Indian.
Yeah. Advertisement.
I'm talking about the major corporations of India here. I'm not talking about the local handmade stuff. The local handmade stuff adds 0.0000001% to the GDP.
Nothing.
Buy as much as you want to support these people as much as you want to. If that's sentiment used, good. But this sentiment will not affect macroeconomics. It will affect microeconomics. As simple.
True.
Yeah, you were saying something about Wall Street.
No. I think I want to talk about this one. The Wall Street point isn't that important anymore. This is a really good one. So from this, I can take one very important thing. One, obviously, buying Patanjali or whatever brand does not really matter. Of course, it's a great start. But from what I can take, I love to think about solutions. So one solution, in case we want to, go over China, and in economic terms, it would be for the capitalists to take it in their own hands and start different industries. But even then, we wouldn't have the raw materials, as you said. They are probably not even here. They're all in China. What do you do with the geography?
You really can't do much about the geography. It's there.
Exactly.
So it all comes down to a very basic point here. And I'll probably make this point in 10 minutes because I think we have gone over an hour here.
Yeah.
Definitely. Whenever we wrap this up, just remind me that we have to make a certain point about geography and capitalism. Just mention these two terms to me and I'll remember. So and whenever we're talking about capitalism, communism, we really do not understand that much, right? What it is. We talk about it. We talk about it in the manner in which it has been portrayed to us.
Yeah.
Communism is bad. Capitalism is good. Let's talk about something very simple here. Capitalism is an economic theory. Communism is also an economic theory. Right. So if capitalists take over entirely, it means a market is absolutely without governmental control, where every step will be for profit and profit only of individuals.
Yeah.
The country doesn't matter there at that point of time. See how much every multinational company thinks of selling to other countries. The diversity of selling is entirely in the hands of the particular number of consumers and different cultures you can reach. If you have one uniform consumer base, it is risky. Why is it risky? Because if something weird happens, weird as in, for example, World War III, doomed. It's not happening. You're doomed. Similarly, the biggest solution that there is to not immediately look at domestic production of raw materials, but is to contribute internationally so that this same process which a company is doing to ensure its consumer base remains good is done at the upstream, that is the start of the supply chain, where the products also come in from very different geographies, where the supply chain becomes diversified.
Right.
Some petroleum, some oil comes from, forget oil. Oil is a difficult thing. Some iron, some iron and steel.
Okay.
Some iron and steel comes from China. Some of it comes from South Africa. Some of it comes from, let's say, Saudi Arabia. Some of it comes from Australia. Well, too far Australia. Some of it comes from Vietnam. Let's say, for example, like whatever it is, irrespective of their allyship or whatever, there are capitalists in those nations as well.
Yeah.
Which means they are themselves diversifying their supply while you are collecting your own. While you are diversifying your upstream, somebody else is diversifying their downstream.
Correct.
Right. This is how economic movement, this is how materials is shifted all over the world. And this is exactly how money is shifted all over the world. What is money? See, one of the biggest problems of today is we consider money as an asset.
It's debt, right? Mostly.
It is not. I'll tell you why it is not.
Okay.
Very. Let's say, for example, you have what do I say? Example. You have a piece of wood, a 2x4. You have a 2x4, a piece of wood.
All right.
Right. Whatever it is. And you love to play cricket. Right. And you also love to make bats at the same point of time. You found a way to make nice bats. So you make bats out of the 2x4 wood, whatever. There are other materials, whatever. The fundamental material is wood in a bat.
Yeah.
That's there.
For simplicity.
Stuffing, whatever. As you ground it, you put it, whatever new. We are not going into that. Wood is the ultimate thing. Now, when I say, how much will you sell the bat for? How much will you sell a good bat for in the market? 2,000 rupees?
Okay, but I'll probably compare with the other bats how much they're selling for.
Whatever, like,
Let's
we're
take-
just talking about
Fine,
one bat.
let's take 2,000 for an example. Yeah. 5,000.
100 rupees. Hero Honda bat, which we all used to have when we used to play with those rubber balls, stumper, 500 rupees bat.
Fine, cheaper ones.
500 rupees. So it's easy to talk about these bats because these are made from just wood. That's it. Nothing is present. That wood, would you be able to sell it for 500 rupees?
No.
Impossible. Right. So what happens in the middle? So in the middle, something happens.
Productivity.
It changes the value.
Productivity happens.
So work happens. You shape, obviously. So you shape the wood into a bat. That happens. So the value or the 500 rupees is not contained in the wood. That 500 rupees is contained in your labor. Right. So no matter whatever you see, anything, tell me anything in this world. Name, I'll give you 3 chances. Give me 3 things where the value is in the material and not in labor.
All right.
Give me random three things. I'll also smoke a cigarette. Yeah.
To be
Any,
honest,
any, any, any.
I'm trying to look at things around me, but I can't find any. When you say that, what do you mean? Like labor does not matter, or what? What exactly do you want to know?
Like I'm saying, I'm telling you to give me any three things, or I'm telling you to negate this point of mine that there is value in the material and not in the labor which was used to make that material.
No, I think labor has more value.
Not not just more. If you just look at it, like let's say for example, biggest example that I can give you is land, a barren, empty land.
Okay.
There is no on it, but it has a price associated.
Oh yeah, that it does. But again, if you construct a home or a house, that is more expensive, no? With labor.
That is more expensive.
Huh.
But the land has value to begin with.
Yeah.
The land has value to begin with. The barren, empty land, nothing is done on that land. It's just soil that's done by Mother Nature.
Yeah.
It has a value to it. And Mother Nature is Mother Nature. We are not quantifying Mother Nature's labor here. We're quantifying human labor. Fact is, what is the price of land in Antarctica?
No idea.
You can't buy it. Number one. But even if you could buy it, it will probably be very negligible. Why?
It's
Because the
inhabitable.
fact is, land is not in the land. The price of land is affected by what is around it. How far is the station? How far is the school? How many roads are there? How far is the airport? How big is the land? How many supermarkets are there? How close is it to the mall? So the value of or the money associated with that land is ultimately individually contained in the labor put into each and every one of those things around the land.
Right.
Do you agree?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, right? There's no way to deny this.
Like I can't think of any.
You can't think of it, which means right now you're agreeing to it.
Absolutely.
This is exactly what is Das Kapital. Karl Marx. Marxism is this. Capital is not a communist propaganda. It says this, and it gives multiple examples throughout the entire book to show how labor is value, is containing value, and materials by themselves have no value.
Fair point.
This is where people randomly throw jargons like communism, Marxism. They haven't read a line of Das Kapital.
Interesting.
Pretty simple. It's very simple. You read it, you will agree. Yes, there are finer arguments there.
But I think the argument against Marxism that I've seen, because I haven't read it, is that Marxists, they support overthrowing of capitalist or anybody who is the CEO of the company. The narrative that I've heard is that the CEO does not need to earn the most anymore, that labor is more valuable than the CEO. That's what I've heard. But then I think, what about the risk that the CEO has taken? What about the debts that he has taken? What about these things?
It's because we are looking at one entity without looking at the other entities.
Mm-hmm.
We're singling out one entity, and we are just individually looking at that one entity. You know what is capital? Rather, for example, if so, I'll extend this argument. If you agree with me till now, that I gave you two examples of a cricket bat and of a land, that money or the value, forget money, value is somewhere an abstract thing, value, is somewhere contained in the labor that has been put into a material and not the material itself.
Correct. But the
Which
labor,
means
when you say labor, you don't just mean human labor, right? You mean any form of labor, even machine, if even if the machine is doing the labor.
the machine,
Right. Of course.
of course. So ultimately, it can be traced back to a single human being.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody is running that. Somebody is running that machine, which means ultimately the human is involved at every process here.
Yeah.
We're not talking about superior AI right now. We are not in that zone till now.
Yeah. No. Not that.
Let's talk in the 21st century right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, what we have, human beings are everywhere. Even if it's automation, somebody is writing a code and it's doing a lot of stuff, but somebody is
Correct.
writing the code at. So what means is ultimately when you are selling something for $750
Mm-hmm.
and you're giving somebody $75 for that work, there is a deficit of $675 in the middle. That $675 is not paid to that person who is working for $750. The very basic example is most of your viewers who are working in the corporate world, they get paid a fixed salary.
Right.
Whereas generate business probably 10, 20, 50, 100 times their salary.
What
Where
business?
does that 10, 50, 20, 100 times
No,
their
no. Your
salary?
voice broke when
They-
you said some business. Some business. What business?
The business as in whatever they are doing.
No. You said
They are doing.
in their companies they are paid a fixed salary, but in some other business they are paid 10, 20, 30%. What is that other business?
The business that they're doing for the company.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's what I'm saying. So there is a deficit of a big amount or a small amount, but there's a deficit which that labor is not paid there. You would say that there's the electricity, there's rent, there's this, that, which is associated, which is not business for the company. It is not business for that company, but it is business for some other company. The company is giving rent as money to somebody. The company in its cafeteria is giving money to the cafeteria vendor. It is not business for that entity, but it is business for a second entity.
Yeah.
And that second entity is also not giving the amount of
Again, it's a
money.
chain like the factories that you explained in the beginning.
You can trace it back all the way to the farmers. So every step, there is no some payment which is hidden, some payment which is not given. That this is where we create something called capital based on non-payment to labors, and this is where the formation of capital is called capitalism. Communism says you won't form that capital. You pay that labor, whatever you pay at the end of the day. Let's trace it back to the beginning of civilization. Was there money? No.
No.
It was a barter system. As people became more, as things started evolving,
Yeah.
you could not possibly compare 20 kg of rice to 20 kg of cloth.
Yeah, you can't compare the direct. You can't compare.
Right. So would not be a fair barter. So you would associate some value with the rice, you would associate some value with the cloth. And this value is intrinsically contained in the labor required to produce the rice and in the labor required to weave the cloth from whatever the hell it is
Yeah.
woven from. Right. So money was created to create uniformity.
Yeah.
Then started an enormous population boom through just before the beginning of a certain event. this like population boom, as in I'm talking about, let's say population reaching 500,000 in the entire world.
Okay.
5 lakh people, or let's say 50 lakh people,
50 lakh.
5 million people in the world.
Hmm.
That's a big population. You can't. It's minuscule compared to today. It's
Of
5
course.
million people are in, but it's a big population. Everybody is producing something on their own, and some people saw that you can do something in the middle, by virtue of which you can stop the payment somewhere, keep a part of that value for yourself. Hence the birth of capitalism. And
Right.
because capitalism was born, and because science had advanced to produce machines, like you said, your example, perfect machines, and machines are not doing the human labor. Basic people who were not associated with science started believing that this is right, that we are not doing the labor, we are not supposed to get the money. The fact is, it is a very uniform view of labor that people had. So big people who understood where they can stop paying and used scientists at the same point of time led the birth of capitalism, and this started the industrial revolution. Before that, everything was communism. Communism has always existed. Capitalism has existed for 400 years. Or at least modern capitalism has existed for 400 years. So it really is not a question of which is good or which is bad. It's a question of capitalism was supposed to do something, that is progress of humanity, creation of machines. Has it done it? Yes, it has. But what are the consequences of it? Is it stable enough? The fact is, when people are understanding where labor and how labor works, this is the fact here. So capitalism was created because of an anomaly somewhere. And when you keep on adding anomaly after anomaly after anomaly after anomaly, somewhere, somehow down the line, the system will collapse. It has not till now, but capitalism is based on an anomaly.
What is that anomaly? Do we know?
That is non-payment or partial payment, and keeping the rest for yourself.
Ray Dalio had a similar thing about it. Have you seen? Do you watch Ray Dalio?
Ray Dalio, I think I've seen one or two of his videos many days ago. Many days.
All right. He made a claim saying that only 3% of the money is real. When I say real, it's printed or something like that, and the rest 97% is debt. It's created.
So how is debt created again? Like, it's not an economics class, so we are not going to go into that.
Yeah, out of thin air.
But yeah, pretty basic. Like it's here you're seeing that somehow, somewhere, people are not getting paid, and because of that, labor is not getting. Forget people. Labor is not paid, and when labor is not paid, it forms capital. So at the end of the day, when you see everybody by nature is somewhere, somehow, everybody, I'm talking about people without enormous capital, people like you and me, our views of getting more payment, of getting more salary, getting raise, this, that, everything is a part of capitalism, but these principles, they come from basic communist theory. What is communism? Communism is basically something which has to deal with community, barter system, society. We are all in a society. People don't realize this, and this is where, because people don't realize this, because people how can people realize this? Because people have been fed lies for 400, 500 years, for 4 or 5 centuries. When you repeat a lie long enough, it does not become the truth, but it definitely hides the truth well enough. These things are called political truths.
Yes.
It's not personal truths. This, when you repeat something enough number, there are 3 kinds of truth, by the way, in the world. One is personal truth. You believe the earth is flat. It's your belief. Personal truth. Whatever the hell it is. You believe God exists. It's your truth. That's it. Second is political truth, which I just told you. And the third is objective truth. Objective truth is very different. Objective truth is proven by multiple processes. So
Facts.
objective kind of truth which is true no matter what you believe. So everything at the end of the day should relate to some objective truth for it to become a full circle in this conversation, for it to be considered as something to care about. So whenever there is something on the media, other media, social media, you question it and you question for objective truth. Until you don't find it, how do you understand what's objective, what's not objective? For that, I'll definitely recommend not my own words. These are the words of Neil deGrasse Tyson at his masterclass. You should definitely take that masterclass to understand what is like how to identify objective truth.
All right. Do you believe in God or energy or anything like that? Personally, no. Don't want to dive into it further. Just a simple question. I'll tell you why. Do you believe in it? Do you believe in God or energies?
I would say I am an atheist, but I do not put religious people down.
All right. But I do believe in energies, not God, but I do believe in energies, the vibrations. I do believe in that they exist. And today, after I don't know 5 years, I think, since I stopped watching TV History Channel. Today was the first time I've seen Neil deGrasse Tyson. I was seeing one of his videos after 5 years, and for you to mention this point, it's insane. I love these kinds of coincidences, man. They mean something to me. So yeah, go ahead. Neil deGrasse Tyson's masterclass. I just wanted to mention this. It's pretty big for me. It's nice.
It's uh, coincidences are very are weird, but it's again like it can't be explained just like that.
Yeah.
But it's mathematical, definitely.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
definitely
I agreed.
it happened. It happened. So that's the entire thing. Like I'll tell you the funny thing about probability. Uh, or statistics. Something very funny here. How much time do we have left?
Another, I think we can do this another 5-10 minutes. Then you think about geography. You don't think about geography.
Yeah. We'll end with that.
Yeah.
So before we move into that, the statistics probability.
Yeah.
Simple one. What was your bachelor's degree?
Bachelor's degree, computer applications.
Hmm?
Computer applications.
Application. So you definitely have knowledge till standard 12 chemistry and physics.
Yeah, pretty much.
You had science, right, in high school?
I'm aware of it, yes. I can't...
You Heisenberg's uncertainty principle.
Pardon?
Heisenberg's uncertainty principle.
Yeah.
So what it says is very basic. Electron position and momentum cannot be measured simultaneously. So what we have is like when we see an atom, what we know is it's like the solar system. But that's not the case. The fact is we know exactly where a nucleus is, but the light that we require to see the electron, the light's wavelength has so much energy that when it strikes an electron, we can't possibly see it. It moves. And if we calculate and if we can see it, we can't understand how it moves. This is the basis of the Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. So electron is not like a particle which we can see, which we can mathematically calculate where an electron is around the nucleus of the atom. Which means an electron is like a three-dimensional sphere, like a ball,
Right.
around a very small nucleus. And there's a probability that this ball will be here. Like the electron will be somewhere on the surface of that ball. And when we have, let's say, 2 orbitals or 3 orbitals. We have that SPDF, multiple electrons, let's say, for example. It's like a cloud. It's a 3D space. The space is 3D. Like when there's a ball, it's everywhere. There's space all around it. And the probability of finding an electron here is maximum. And the probability, if you remember an exponential graph, it's like this. Like, like a reducing exponential graph,
Right.
radioactive decay, very for example.
Okay.
The beauty about an exponential function is that it tends to zero. It always tends to zero. It never reaches zero. It never reaches zero. The fact is, there is a very minuscule probability that there's an atom or there's an electron of an atom of your body which is in near to Alpha Centauri right now, of your own body. There's a very minuscule probability of that. You can't say that that's false because that is true.
Correct.
There's a very minuscule. You don't know where an electron of your body is. It's pretty simple. Yeah, the way we think of atoms are not like that. So what I'm trying to say is, this is called the energy levels of atom. And when we put an atom in the place of an electron, we have something called entropy. Okay. Entropy is the virtue of everything. Energy exists because of entropy. Mm-hmm. What is entropy? Entropy is the most stable state of anything. And everything always wants to move towards a more stable state.
Correct.
Probability that something will move towards a more stable state.
Is this an objective truth that everything wants to move to a more stable state?
Objective truth. It has been proven that everything wants to move towards the most stable state.
All right.
It's fundamental. It's a fundamental thing in science. This is the reason why we say energy can't be created nor destroyed.
Right.
So the objective truth here is, when it's moving towards a more stable state, the ice, when you put in hot water, what happens?
It becomes water itself. It starts melting.
Melts. Will it always melt?
I mean, yeah.
Yes. Why? Because that's what we see. That's what we have observed. It will always melt.
Correct.
Is the more stable entropy state.
Yes.
But here's the about entropy. Probability distribution. So there is a 0.00010 to the power minus 35 or 36. That's after a dot, 36 zeros, and then 1. Let's say, for example, a size of ice being 1 centimeter on each side, and a cup holding 50 ml of hot water. Water at 80 degrees Celsius. There's that minuscule probability that the hot water will turn to ice.
Right. That's basically the curve. It never reaches zero. It never is zero. It reaches zero.
But the probability is so fucking small, it's never been observed.
Yeah.
But we know that's the case because that's how energy works. That's the basic about statistics, and people should understand how powerful this is before jumping onto certain conclusions. And at the end of the day, the biggest fact of them all, before we can consume. So we have a lot about energy and like this thing, like the geography and stuff I'm going to talk about. Final thing. We talked about capitalism and whatever. They're pretty fundamental. You also know one thing: global warming, climate change. Climate change is happening because of capitalist progression, or rather, people have associated capitalism with it. How true is it? Is there evidence towards it? There is evidence towards it. The fact is, where capitalism has succeeded? Capitalism has succeeded in bringing us iPhone. Capitalism has failed in bringing us iPhone 1, iPhone 2, iPhone 3, iPhone 4, iPhone 5, iPhone 6, iPhone 7, iPhone 8, iPhone 9, iPhone 10 every year. Is there a significant quantum improvement in technology from iPhone 5 to iPhone 6, from iPhone 6 to iPhone 7?
No,
Is there? Or do you need it?
we don't. Greed.
You don't need it. But why do you crave for it? You crave for it because of two reasons. One, it's advertised like that. Social media is a gigantic advertisement platform.
Yeah.
This is the bad side of social media. Peer pressure is nothing. Peer pressure of traveling, everything is just a gigantic advertisement. It's created by somebody who is at the helm of this, who was at the helm of this. And it's thrust into society as a wave that, look, that other person is living such a better life. I need to live that better life, hiding other truths of that other person. Number one. Number two, the existing iPhone 6 you have, there's some software manipulation done to it. Not by you, but by the Apple server.
Some software,
By
what?
virtue of software manipulation, battery power, whatever has done to it. By virtue of which you will require a new iPhone 7 because your phone is not giving the same performance. There's one comment which I said, inferior goods, superior goods. This is how demand is created. It's engineered. Which is otherwise not supposed to be there. So this enormous amount of production, it has an impact somewhere, which people don't require. You don't require an iPhone every year. You probably require it. See, this phone I touch, it's an iPhone. It's a OnePlus 2 which I use. My phone will turn 5 years this December. Now I need a change because the fact is the battery literally doesn't hold. This is when I need a change. Apart from me wanting to change it. So this is the difference. Can my phone take pictures? Yes. Can my phone, not better pictures or whatever, but then again, it can take good pictures. Like, there won't be a big improvement in picture quality from OnePlus 2 to OnePlus 3. There will be a huge difference from OnePlus 2 to OnePlus 7. That is when you move technology through. OnePlus 2 is good. OnePlus 7 is good. See the difference. See what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
One good every 4 years instead of every 6 months. That's not required.
Right.
So technology progresses, but it does not progress at the rate at which it's fed to us. It's impossible for science to progress that fast. It does not progress in 6 months. It progresses in 5 years, even 3 years. So all of this leads to climate change. How do we know it? Again, since we're talking about recent issues, I'll talk about Cyclone Amphan as how it is an evidence of climate change. What causes cyclones? People normally know it's very fast-moving movements. What causes cyclones normally? You have to know that.
Yeah, before that, I think instead of saying simple climate change, because a simple argument against that would be climate has been ever changing. It has been changing before humans were there. Let's call it. What do you want to call? Do we use capitalism? Capitalism induced climate change. How would that be? Or over capitalism induced climate change?
I'll leave the colloquialism to you because it doesn't change the basic fact.
No, but still, climate change does have another argument, right? Climate has always been changing since dinosaurs.
So that's the thing. So that is where I'm giving the argument against it. That it's an abnormal change.
Okay.
It's what sort of climate change you would say? What's climate? People normally say climate change is like, for example, we have winter, we have summer and stuff. Climate change. That's not climate changing. That's season. So an entire cycle from January to December, what you experience is climate. Any anomaly brought to that cycle from January to December at any point of time is evidence of climate change. For example, like, have you experienced or heard of any hurricane or any cyclone in the months of November, December, January, February? Not November, December, January, February. Have you heard of it?
I don't think
Ever?
I have no idea, man. I don't. Yeah.
Even if you search for it, there's probably one or two instances, but it's very rare. It's not. Why do cyclones mostly happen in? It's in the latter half of the year. Generally, July, August, September, October is the cyclone season, or that is when the monsoon also happens. So storms also happen. So what is cyclone? Cyclone is a bigger storm. It's as simple as that. So how do storms happen? So warm water, warm air, when it rises up, warm air is unstable. It rises up. We all know that. Cold air rushes down.
Mm.
And normally, warm air to go up and form clouds, rain clouds, needs to have what?
Moisture.
To form clouds. What is the most important thing for clouds to form?
Moisture, right?
Moisture, water.
Yeah.
So
I told that already. That's
it's
all.
water. Sorry. So if it's water, it has to form over oceans or large enough water bodies. Large enough water bodies. So the air above water bodies, as it rises up, that warm, moist air into the atmosphere, and it rapidly cools because of the high layers of the atmosphere, it condenses to form clouds. And as the clouds become heavier, it rains.
Right.
This is cloud formation.
Right.
Simple. For example, as it rises up, there's more and more air rising up. There's a huge amount of air. And suddenly, there is a region of low pressure. Low pressure.
Okay.
So you know that air flows from a high pressure area to a low pressure area.
Yeah.
Right. So let's say the cloud is there. It's flowing from like it's attracting air from a high pressure zone. Let's say significant zone of low pressure is one area. It is attracting from every sides. From every sides, it is attracting air from higher pressure, which themselves have clouds.
Yeah.
Let's say at the same point of time, this is close to the equator because it generally happens closer to the equator. Why? Because the Earth is spinning faster at the equator than it is spinning faster anywhere else.
Right. Okay.
A circle's diameter spins faster than the axis of spin.
Correct.
At the axis, it's stagnant. So the air moves the air has two movements. One is along the movement of the Earth's rotation, and one is towards the low pressure zone.
Right.
What happens when the speed of rotation is faster than the air can go to the low pressure zone?
With the speed.
Imagine a low pressure zone in the northern hemisphere.
Okay.
And air is moving along a high pressure zone. Suddenly, it's moving along with the rotation. It's moving along with the rotation. Suddenly, it is attracted towards the low pressure zone, but it cannot reach the low pressure zone because it has overtaken it already. Because of the speed of the rotation of the Earth, the air has already overtaken it. Similarly, the air coming from above the low pressure zone is affected by the movement of the Earth's atmosphere, movement of the Earth's rotation. In that case, it is slower than the point at which the low pressure is moving. The low pressure is moving faster if it's at the top.
Right.
So it is slower. So all this air all around it, it doesn't reach the low pressure because of the Earth's rotation and because of the differences in rotational speed along the, let's say, equator to the Tropic of Cancer, differences in speed at every place. So it doesn't really reach the low pressure, but it sort of revolves around it, sort of starts revolving around it. And so you see what happens.
It becomes a circle, hurricane types.
That is exactly what is a storm. Now, where does climate change come into this picture? Why do cyclones normally happen in that time frame, July to October? Why? Because the air has to be warm enough for it to take all that air from the ocean, rise up, form the cloud.
Correct.
So the ocean takes most of the heat of the earth. When is the earth the hottest?
When it's closest to the sun.
Like generally, when it's like, when do we experience peak summer? We
May.
normally experience peaks in July, August. Those are generally the hottest months everywhere. I'm talking about. I'm extremely sorry. My bad laptop battery is on charge. I'll quickly put it on charge so that we can. 2 minutes. Let's say, for example, I'm talking about places not experiencing monsoon. Right. Monsoon brings a different thing.
Yeah, because over here it's hottest in May.
May. In general, places not with monsoon, you would find it is the hottest in July or August.
Okay.
Why? Because it's simple geography. When is the summer solstice? It's in June.
Okay.
Closest to the sun. So it is supposed to be hottest in June, but is generally hottest in July and August because the ocean has sucked up most of the heat.
Okay. Got it.
And because the ocean sucked up most of the heat, now the ocean is giving off the heat. After the sun's effect is starting to cool, now the ocean is giving off the heat. So the combined effect of the ocean giving off the heat and even the reduced heat from the sun makes July, August the hottest.
Okay.
And it is during this time, after it's hot enough, it rises up. Right. So now the fact is the ocean needs sufficient time to absorb the heat for such vast amounts of clouds to be pumped up to the upper atmosphere to form a storm system.
Correct.
Right. So if this process is extremely important for a cyclonic storm, it means that sufficient heat can only be given in June, which means that sufficient, because during the winter months, there is not enough heat.
Correct.
So if a cyclone happens in mid-May, early May, Amphan developed in early May, which is right after the spring equinox, it means just a minimal amount of heat from the sun was responsible for the formation of vast amount of clouds and the vast difference in pressure, which means the air was already heated.
Right.
It just required a little bit more heat. The air was already heated. So, how is the air already heated? When it's loaded with some things that prevent the heat from the sun, which has already come in, to escape, and thereby carbon dioxide or heavier gases. Heavier gases like methane, like sulfur dioxide, like gases other than oxygen and ozone and nitrogen. Simple oxygen, ozone, hydrogen, nitrogen. Most of our atmosphere is nitrogen. And then it's oxygen.
Yes.
So when these gases start building up more, it traps the heat.
Okay.
And the phenomenon which we experience is cyclones, even before Earth has heated up the most. not even close to heating up the most. Early May. It's still 3 weeks to summer solstice. Normally, cyclones come later, or even if there is a cyclone which has come in May, it's of a much lesser intensity. This was a category 5 storm. And if you see the records in the past 20, 30 years, cyclones have shifted. The occurrence of cyclones always, it happens every year. It's supposed to happen. But it has shifted. The onset has shifted earlier and earlier. If this is not evidence of climate change, then what is?
I cannot pull up historical data to back that up. But,
So-
but anyway, 20, 30 years of being earlier. And the simple fact that it is heavier because of the gases that are given out by these factories or any form of whatever. It's filled with gases for some reason. Yeah.
The excessive production. That's it. Like
Simple.
every,
Excessive.
every production requires energy. And when energy is utilized, we are changing the, like I said, entropy. We're changing the entropy of something. And whenever we change the entropy of something, we are bound to have a byproduct. Carbon dioxide is a byproduct.
It is interesting. Is there a solution to this then? Of course. Okay, let's think about this. Let's say companies do give out only every 3 years, but then that would affect jobs as well, right?
So that's a thing. We have already created this.
It's becoming a philosophical topic. It's more of a philosophical answer otherwise. What do you think?
Philosophical answer. It's if you look at it from the perspective of every subject, it becomes philosophy. That is what philosophy is.
Mm-hmm.
So the solution is simple. One subject has to win here.
Right. Exactly.
It's as simple. So, I'm being as blunt as possible because if not blunt, then nothing else. Then everything else is philosophy. So one subject to win here. If not everybody can win. Like if you have created this economy, this form of economy where constant production is required, then we are to blame. We are only to blame. That's it. Because it's not right that there has to be constant production of commodities. It means that there has been too much capital which has been created, which has deprived people of their basic necessities somewhere, somehow down the line. And all that necessity is accumulated in the capital which is existing in the world. That's why people constantly require jobs and not invest their time in what they do. You say that talking about 1500 years ago to 2000 years ago is not really good. People will just tell me that. I agree, it's not really good, but we have bought into all of this for 2000 years. If you start to undo it, it'll probably take us half the time. But if it does take us half the time, it will take us 1,000 years. If we do nothing about it, the problems will compound on top of the other. See, not accepting the problem doesn't erase the problem.
Exactly.
People have to realize that. Capitalists have to realize that. Governments have to realize that. Governments endorsing capitalists have to realize that. There are multiple arguments of universal basic income and stuff and this and that which come into the picture. So again, that's for another day.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. So pretty much.
Pretty interesting conclusion, man. Pretty interesting conclusion. I know one thing for sure. As soon as I'm done with this podcast, I'm going to rewatch it because there are so many points. Albeit a lot of them are basic. I would love to know more about them. Like again, I would love to research and study about these topics more because I love to be informed, and that's again the biggest reason why I wanted to do this entire podcast. And there's so much that I've learned in this itself. Although a lot of stuff we should have already concluded ourselves, but then That's why special people have special talents, right? Everybody's different.
See, it's if we could conclude stuff on ourselves, then we would have been in different places, right?
Yeah,
So the fact is, we are at least asking the questions, which most people aren't.
that's
That's
what.
the first step. So people can start asking questions, the correct questions, then that is what we can do. So see, that is what is knowledge. Like every knowledge is interesting. You hated one subject in high school. I'm telling it to everybody. It's probably because it's nothing to do with the subject. It's because how it was taught to you. It's as
Exactly.
simple as that.
Every
Is
subject's
born with
interesting, man. Like right now, the way you were talking about it, the raindrops, how they form, the summer solstice, and all this. In school, I hated it, but right now, I'm like, this is so interesting. This is so interesting.
it's because capitalism has crept into teaching as well. Right. As simple as that. So people jump from one school to the other. That's, this is the downside of capital. I mean, if I start talking about it, I can talk
I get
entire
it.
entire
See,
20.
there are downsides. The upsides are simple. The upsides are we have way more than we need. The world is the world is moving forward, arguably moving forward.
Scientific progress would not have been possible without capitalism,
Exactly.
but it should have been kept in check.
Yeah.
This is where the role of the government comes into play. Exactly.
To preserve life, liberty, and what's the third one? There's something else. I think this is for.
Is probably the best thing, the best abstract thing that happened to us. In communism, there's no market to begin with. Market, whenever I'm talking about a market, I'm talking about capitalism. That's the best thing that has happened to us. But we haven't been able to understand its dynamics. And it's only been 50 years till economic theories, the behavioral economics, this, that is, it's just been 50 years. People have warned us before. Yes, people have. But we haven't paid much heed to them. Definitely.
Yeah, it's a pretty minuscule data set considering the amount of where 400 years is and whereas 50 years when the behavior is actually come into play, or at least being noted. It's a pretty small data set, and people don't understand that. People think if it exists, everyone knows everything about it. Everyone is an expert. Someone is responsible for this, so it's obviously supposed to be perfect in whatever way it exists. Which is why the question of questions doesn't even arise. No one even asks them.
That's the thing. See, because everything has been made into a competition, right?
Yeah.
On social media, like the way I want that, I need that, I need to be better than that person. This has created dearth of knowledge as well, because people consider knowing stuff as a competition as well. If you don't know it, people aren't honest themselves anymore that I don't know it. They'll try to bullshit their way out of it. I Everybody does it. It happens daily in every DMUN committees. Because knowing less is seen as a loss of competition. And the people of today are not to blame. Somebody else is to blame. But the sooner people realize it, the better. That knowledge is not competition. It can't be competition. Somebody is bound to know more than you, whoever you are.
Yeah,
He
absolutely.
might have a different opinion as well. Consider opinions before delving into everything. So, uh, many things people need to
Absolutely,
introspect.
man.
Definitely.
Absolutely, man. Last two questions. Again, geography is the cyclone point what you wanted to talk about while you were saying geography?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
great. Yeah, and the second thing, I think this should answer everything and everything. This is what? Oh my god, it's been 2 hours, insane. All right, what time is it there?
It's 2:20 a.m. So yeah.
Wow, man. Lovely. Thank you so much for your time. But anyway, the last question is this: what is your world view? Right, and as short as possible, not philosophical as possible. Or I think, based on our conversation, what subject do you want to win?
Environment, obviously, at the end of the day. Uh, Primarily because we don't have another home.
Yeah.
We just have one home. That's it.
Got it. It's a fair point, but so many things go into it. But yeah, that again, end of the day, the entire onus is upon us as individuals more so than a society. Of course, the government is there, but one might argue in conspiracy theories there are the people who are controlling you. There are Soroses and Rothschilds who are controlling you, sitting there. You're being controlled like puppets. Ask yourself, why are you being controlled? It's because you're giving attention to it. It's because you're giving your money to that control. I think that's
Or which they're controlling.
huh? What?
Or which aspect they're controlling.
Yeah, exactly. Ask yourself these questions instead of just putting your blame out there. You're being controlled. If you want to get out of it, I think you got to figure out your own needs. What it's that I actually genuinely need, and what I am actually going greedy for. I understand that, but that is really difficult in today's society. That is a world of comparison. A world of comparison. Yeah,
So,
man.
yeah, thing is at the end of the day a delicate balance. So it has to happen somehow, but it has to happen in multiple ways, more ways than one. First and foremost, people need to stop being a winner in everything individually.
In everything.
Not every
Yeah.
can be a winner. Everybody. So this aspect of winning has to be shed. Nobody should be a winner, or there can be one winner. Everybody should accept that person to be the winner. Fine. Everybody else, move on with your job.
Exactly.
That's it. Pretty much simple. Somebody is doing better than you, let him. He'll do something good someday, soon, sooner than later. Later, you don't need to do something really.
I was waiting. It'll stop sooner, later, later. Yeah, actually, does not really matter. This is an idea. Again, it's an advertisement. Probably longer than Patanjali's Ramdev Baba, as you said. I'll have to look more into that. But it's probably an advertisement that we all bought into.
Obviously. Yeah. And it's been said. And social media has contributed to feeding this narrative.
Yeah. Do you think it's going to end anytime soon, or do you think it's possible even to end mathematically?
See, mathematically, definitely not. But the more, if somebody believes something is good, or if somebody is seeing right through it, I don't know how much I see right through it, but I definitely do see some things through it.
Yeah.
Those people should make their voices heard.
Yes. I think that's
If
the
they don't,
first step right now. In our generation, I think this is the war.
they'll face enormous opposition, but each and every one of them should develop a thicker skin and should make their voices heard, because everybody has the power to change at least one other human being. That person will has the power to change another human being. This is mathematical probability. So there's a portion where we have to accept depressing things other weird people say to us and move on with it and carry that as baggage. If you believe something is good, stand up for it no matter what the consequence.
Yes.
And that amount of people is very less.
Correct. Yeah, I think that was the entire reason for this podcast. And I'm glad, again, we have come a full circle, I think, multiple times now. Too much of congruency is going on. The entire
It's
purpose.
just merry-go-round.
Pardon?
Life is just merry-go-rounds.
Yeah, man. That's it. Except it's unpredictable, like the position of the nucleus. Right? So we're all undergoing Heisenberg's uncertainty principles in our entire life, both figuratively and quite literally, I would say. Right? So maybe One of my atoms right now is near Proxima Centauri. There's a 0.00 to the power of negative 37 chance. But I need there to be 100% chance of you listening to this podcast and understanding what has been said. And I promise you, I'm going to do it again as well because I loved what was discussed. And before this, I promise you, each and every thing that Soumya had said, most of it, I completely was, I think, unaware of. And when I say unaware, not that I didn't know of it, was it wasn't in my conscious memory, so I was not making any conscious decisions towards it. Right now, we've I think come towards a certain goal to protect our only home that we have. And I think that's beautiful. I think that's what you and I can take, if not anything else, if economy is too much to understand, just take this one small part that if we have one home, protect that at all costs. Because not all subjects can win. And don't take any subject personally. Right? It's not your subject to own. It exists by itself. It's not your thing to own. Let environment win, let the home win, and if you can change one person, make your voices heard. I think that should be great. And thank you so much, Soumya. This was, to be honest, really mind blowing to know all these things. And thank you so much for your time. It's 2:03 a.m. in Kyoto, and really, really, really humbled to be talking to you. And out of nowhere, man, like literally, this was our first conversation after what? So many years, 6, 7 years. Didn't feel like that. Felt pretty interesting, I would say.
See, that's the thing about knowledge. It's like gravity. It's always like good sharing and hearing, both.
Touche. All right. Thank you so much.